How is your blockchain-enabled digital ecosystem likely to be different 5 years from now? And what is your digital enterprise going to need to look like to take full advantage of those changes?
Jack Shaw is an innovation and change management strategist. He was voted one of the world's top 25 professional speakers and one of the world's top 5 technology futurists.
And complete that process before the next synchronization, which with the Bitcoin blockchain takes place every 10 minutes, would be approximately equal to the amount of energy emitted during the same period of time by the sun. Now I know some of you are saying, so you could do it then.
Walked out of there energized, enthused, excited to be a part of it, and I can't wait to go talk to our clients about this and figure out how we're going to work together. Cool.
A global thought leader, corporate financial executive, software company executive, innovation and change management consultant, author, and speaker. Jack integrates his executive experience in industry, technology, and consulting to speak on technology-enabled innovation, change management, and transformational leadership.
Understanding blockchain and the use cases, communicating it to key executive decision makers, evaluating the cost benefits of use cases. But none of the issues on this list have to do with technology.
Jack keeps a pulse on shifts in technology, providing him the foresight to help industry leaders understand how emerging technologies impact their digital ecosystem and how these technologies are practically applied both today and tomorrow. This experience enables him to speak with unique perspective on such current leading-edge technologies as artificial intelligence, blockchain, 5G, and the Internet of Things.
It's a lot of change to manage. You got to change your mindset, your business processes, your business model, even participate in changing your business ecosystem.
Jack has delivered over 1,000 keynote presentations and executive forums in over 25 countries and every state across the U.S.
So together, let's answer the question, how are you going to embrace disruptive technologies to drive innovation in your business? Fortunately, we have a host of emerging technologies rapidly evolving, all of which have tremendous impacts across business and society as a whole, and certainly the lawn care and landscaping business is no different in that respect. From mobile and cloud computing to high-speed 5G wireless, data analytics, artificial intelligence, autonomous robotics, drones, augmented and virtual reality, Internet of Things, and blockchain. Now, we're not going to have time to talk in detail about each of these technologies, but I do want to share with you some ideas and thoughts about how some of these key technologies will enable, are already beginning to enable tremendous change in the lawn and landscaping business. But I think it's important to put it into context. Of the many landscape executives that I've had the opportunity to talk with over the past several months, all of them to a person indicated that the 3 most important issues that they were facing as a company and as an industry were first, number 1, labor. Number 2, labor. And number 3, you guessed it, labor. And you guys are getting hit on both ends. When it comes to highly skilled people, finding, hiring, and retaining people with real skills in the field is increasingly difficult and expensive. And at the same time, at the low end of the market, it is becoming more and more difficult to pay unskilled people a living wage and still make any profit at all on the low end mow and blow kinds of operations. So as we go through the impacts of a number of these technologies, I'm not going to bother to point them all out. You all know your business better than I do, but I think you will see that a number of the applications and use cases that I'm going to describe are ones that address one or both aspects of the labor issues that you all are dealing with, not to mention other issues that we'll touch on during the course of the session. Let's start by talking about augmented and virtual reality. And let me ask first, who here can define the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality? Hold your hands up if you're knowledgeable enough about that. Okay, well, we've got a few. I'm not going to ask you to stand up and doing that, but since we don't have as many as we might like, let me make the distinction. Augmented reality basically takes the physical reality in front of you. I mean, we're in a room right now. If you're in a landscaping environment, you're probably outside at a residential or commercial property or golf course, what have you. And it overlays the existing reality with additional information. It may be images, it may be data, but it gives you an overlay of it. The simplest example I can think of is when I took my grandson, who's quite a football fan, to his first football game, and they kicked off and they lined up for the first set of downs, and he says, "How am I supposed to know where they have to get to make first down? There's no yellow line on the field." Well, we take it for granted now. You know, that technology's been around for 20 years or more in television. Is that augmented reality? They add a yellow line so you can see how far the runner or the pass receiver has to get down the field to make a first down. So that's a simple example of augmented reality. Virtual reality is much, much deeper. It involves an immersive, fully immersive environment, typically where your entire field of vision is covered up with a set of virtual reality glasses or viewers, as they call them. There's a variety of these products out on the market. And you see what could be a completely imaginary environment, or what could be a very real, actual environment, but just remotely located from where you happen to physically be at the moment. And in some cases, it incorporates sound and haptics, which refers to actual physical feelings, contact, and that kind of thing. Virtual reality has been emerging for 30 years. It will continue to emerge for a number of years, but already has some very exciting applications. But stepping back, looking at just the augmented reality market, it's taking off tremendously. Just 5 years ago, about $3 billion was the market size, doubled by the next year, but by 2025 is anticipated to be nearly $200 billion. So this market is exploding. And let's take a look at a couple of examples of augmented reality. First, in landscape design, here we can see the actual physical front yard, only now we've marked out a new garden we're going to put in. We've put down the mulch, and now we can start putting plantings in place, trees of various sizes. And we can adjust the sizing on the trees to make it appropriate as we may wish. And then we can go in and we can start locating bushes, shrubs, flowers, and so forth, putting them in the appropriate locations, rotating them if they're going to look better facing one direction versus another. And at the end of the process, what we've got is a full-blown 3D simulation of exactly what this new garden would look like when completed, before we've ever even turned over the first shovelful of dirt, so that we can review it with the customer and know that this is exactly what we want. The same thing can be done with hardscape. If you take a look at this video at the very beginning, you see just a blank, bare lot. But we then overlay hardscape on top of it, starting with a pool, an outdoor kitchen, and even putting a new fireplace and positioning it in the right location. At the end of the process, now again, we can walk through the entire process with the customer and show them what the finished product will look like before we've ever done the first bit of actual work. Tremendous benefits for augmented reality: better design renders, more accurate quotes, a better assessment of what the timeline looks like in terms, and what you need in terms of materials, labor, what your costs are going to be. This all helps you streamline the project. You know exactly what you're getting into before you get started. And that's important. You don't have to drag physical samples out and then try to roughly set them in place if you're talking about hardscape, or lug around extra materials, or even worse, start installations and then discover that it's not quite working the way or looking the way that you and or the customer thought it should. And this cuts down on extra shipping and manufacturing, and that has both environmental and supply chain benefits as a whole. Now, virtual reality takes it to the next step. And let me show you a quick video clip from a landscape architecture graduate school where the dean is talking about the impact of virtual reality on landscape architecture design.
VR allows people to experience landscape architecture in a completely new way.
If you wear the head-mount display, you are actually in another world.
I mean, when we were having the review of the thesis, one of the reviewers said, "Whoa, this is a Pandora's box." It allows a user the complete freedom to walk through a space on their own.
You can change the materials really quickly and find out what looks good.
So virtual reality and augmented reality can be used for, and increasingly are becoming more and more powerful. And as they are integrated with artificial intelligence, will become vastly, exponentially more powerful yet for landscape design. But they can also be applied for training purposes. Now, I'm going to share with you a video clip showing virtual reality for training. And I need to give you a little bit of a background here first before I do. About 25 years ago, I was speaking to a group of manufacturing executives about a new emerging technology called the Internet. And I actually had a demonstration where my computer with the projector was actually hooked up to the Internet. And so I was projecting this up on the screen for these people, and I said, now, what you're seeing on the screen is called a website. And this particular website is one that I'm doing some business with, actually, but it's a little startup. Nobody knows if they'll ever make anything out of themselves or not. They call themselves Amazon.com. And I went online and ordered a copy of my own book and had it shipped to my office, which, if you stop to think about it, was not a very profitable thing for me to do, because even though I was paying a discounted price for the book, Amazon was paying me back even less for buying it from me and selling it back to me. And so that was my first significant contribution to Jeff Bezos' billions. But at the end of the presentation, I said, "So what do you think?" One of the guys raises his hands right away. He says, "Wow, Jack, that is cool technology. I had no idea anything like that was really possible. That's really neat. But what has that got to do with us? We're manufacturers. We don't sell books." Well, fortunately, I think I'm dealing with a group of people that are a little more cognitively aware and can take an example I'm going to show you in another industry and transfer the possibility of training in either equipment maintenance or landscape maintenance and work in your industry. But this particular example is from maintaining manufacturing equipment, but I think you'll get the point without any problem.
PGT Industries is a Florida-based manufacturer of windows and doors. Like many U.S. manufacturers, their skilled workforce is retiring, and PGT is utilizing advanced technology to help new or less experienced technicians become productive faster. PGT factories have complex manufacturing lines and machinery that require regular maintenance. PGT turned to Manifest to guide technicians through regular maintenance procedures, such as replacing a dynamic mixer on an insulated glass ceiling machine. Expert technicians use Manifest to document step-by-step instructions for common operational procedures. No special skills are required, and instructions can be created at the machinery. For each job step, spatial markers guide technicians to specific locations on equipment. Experts record video notes for detailed instructions, which are available to operators as they perform the procedure. Technicians following manifest instructions are proven to complete jobs faster and more accurately. Instructions, as well as supporting PDF manuals, photos, videos, and notes, can all be accessed hands-free without worrying about lugging around physical manuals or even juggling a mobile device. Tactile's Manifest platform provides the guidance and knowledge when and where your workforce needs it and makes everyone an expert.
Now, to translate that to landscaping, I had a fascinating conversation several weeks ago with Danielle Collinson, and she said, boy, what I would love to do is take my new hires out into a parking lot and have them put on a pair of virtual reality glasses, and then using the pesticide or fungicide sprays, walk through a virtual property, learning how to spray and put the spray in the right place without hitting the wrong plantings and so forth, where they're only testing things virtually if they make a mistake, rather than causing damage to our customers' properties. So that's just one example. And obviously the maintenance of actual equipment, physical equipment itself, is another example. Now, another technology that is exploding is the Internet of Things. Studies project that enterprise spending on Internet of Things technologies over the next several years will grow at a 27% compound annual growth rate to close to $500 billion by 2025. And what is happening is that any physical object can become connected now because the component costs of sensors, processors, connectivity, wireless connectivity, data storage, and memory, and you don't need to store a lot of data at the physical thing. Power cell and battery all can be shrunk down to miniature chips that can be embedded or attached to physical objects. At the same time, the value of information is increasing. So by providing continuous monitoring, Internet of Things technologies allow for real-time alerting in critical situations and can increase productivity, can support predictive analytics, and can reduce or even eliminate failure conditions, whether it is a piece of equipment not working properly or whether it's tracking whether a particular planting or irrigation zone is getting enough or too much water. Fleet services is one of the interesting areas where this is applied, where vehicles and then off-road equipment like bobcats or front-end loaders can have active Internet of Things communications that are monitoring the functionality of those vehicles, that are communicating proactively through wireless 5G communications or in remote locations, maybe even through satellite locations. And then you have smaller chips that can be put onto handhelds like chainsaws, hedge trimmers, blowers, etc., that can communicate locally to the off-road equipment or the physical vehicle, whichever might happen to be nearby. This way you can not only track the location of equipment. Anybody here ever lose equipment? Yeah, right. Anybody ever find the lost equipment? Well, now and then it turns out it got in the wrong truck or whatever. Okay, at least this way you can keep track of where the equipment is and even the utilization of the equipment so that you can find out, is this equipment being used on a regular basis? Maybe we've got a piece of equipment that is in a truck that is servicing a certain number of properties that rarely ever has to be used, and yet we could use it much more frequently in another location. So maybe we need to reassign the location of that particular piece of equipment, and we can better estimate the costs. How many hours of use are we actually getting out of that chainsaw or hedge trimmer or bobcat? And how does that reflect in the cost along with the labor costs associated with servicing particular properties? This also can tie back into the sharing economy. Now, how many people who flew in from out of town got to the hotel by taking an Uber or a Lyft or a ride-sharing service? Right, a lot of us did. So we're all familiar with that. Most of us are familiar with Airbnb. But on the business and industrial side, this has also been going on for a while. For the last several years, GE, Jet Engines division, no longer sells its jet engines to the airlines that use them. They charge them an initial setup cost, and then the airline pays for the jet engine by hour of flight. And it's up to GE to make sure the jet engine is maintained on a regular basis so they can get as many paid hours of flight for their profitability and the profitability of the airline. And what it also does, it moves that cost from the airline's perspective from a huge fixed cost to a variable cost that is aligned with the usage, the way that they're selling tickets on their aircraft. So the same kind of concept can readily apply as we saw in the scenario that I opened with, where the landscaper had stopped selling irrigation equipment and is now providing irrigation as a service on an ongoing basis. Now, to do this effectively requires us to use data analytics. And we're going to also talk about artificial intelligence.